so that you can start adding the other bits. So I'm just going to get the other stuff out and start weighing it so that we're ready when it's done its thing. So the rest of the things I need are 1 egg, flour, salt, nutmeg and butter, and ideally sage leaves, but I don't know if it's a Scottish thing or if it's just where I am. It's really hard to find fresh sage, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but I've really struggled over the past wee while to get any sage, so I'm going to do it with our sauerkraut and bacon anyway, so the sage is not required today, but maybe if these turn out nicely, it might be another nice idea to have if you just fancy maybe something a bit lighter. And I don't think, no, it doesn't say what flour, so I'm just going to use plain flour, because it doesn't need to rise or anything. It is just little kind of noodly things. Flour, salt, nutmeg. And it says ground nutmeg, but I don't have any. I've only got the whole nutmeg, so I'm just going to grate a little bit of that. And what's the other thing? 1 egg. That's all of that sorted, and then I need to start, I'll wash out my pan. Right, so we need to cook these kind of twice almost. So basically, first of all, we're gonna, once I've formed them and shake them all up nicely, then we want to cook them in lightly boiling salted water until they come to the top. So I suppose that's like what you would do with gnocchi, isn't it? I think that's how you would traditionally cook gnocchi, is you kind of boil them and then they'll sort of start to rise to the top, and that's when you know that they're ready. So we do that, and then once they're all ready, leave them to cool for a bit, and then we'll fry them up with a little bit of butter, and then we'll add in our sauerkraut. Now this is something, I feel like I'm cheating slightly by having a jar of it, but I've made it once before because I was quite intrigued to see how it works, and it's supposed to be really good. Obviously it's like a superfood, and because it's fermented, it's supposed to be really good for people with IBS, because you wouldn't think so, but it's quite easy to digest. So I tried making it. It looked okay, but I'm not quite sure. There must have been something that went wrong in the process, because when it actually came to eating it, it was really kind of bitter, and it just didn't taste nice. I don't know if it was over fermented or under fermented, or if I put too much of one ingredient in, or I'm not quite sure, but either way it wasn't very nice, and it was a lot of work and a lot of time to get a jar of stuff that then had to be thrown out because no one would eat it. So I've learnt from that, and I've bought a jar, and we've had this one before and it is really nice, so it saves me a lot of time, and it's still good because it is good for you. So that's going in. So I'm going to wash out my pot so that I can use that once the potatoes come out. Do that quickly just now. Well, the sun is definitely coming back out. It's threatening, although half of the sky is nice and light and the other half is dark. So I'm hoping the dark bit is what we've already had and it's away, and the light stuff's coming, but it would be quite nice to have a nice weekend, just for a change. I hope you've all got nice things planned for the weekend. Hopefully the weather is better where you are. you're actually able to enjoy it. The only problem with potatoes is it's like glue, so it's stuck to the pot, something rotten. That to boil our little dumplings. I can't do dishes without making such a mess. It's ridiculous. Right, so that's our pot ready for our, I suppose you could call them gnocchi because they are quite similar. I don't know if there's anything different to the recipes, but they are similar, so. And I've just, I don't know if you can see that, hopefully not, but I've absolutely soaked myself. Right, I'm going to weigh out my flour so that we're ready to go. If you've been here from the beginning, I'm not quite sure, I'm going to say this again, but I have, so the recipe that I found, it's for a German dish, but it's an American recipe, so all of the measurements were in, what is it, imperial measurements. So, but you were able on the recipe to change it to metric, so I've changed it to metric, but it means that for flour, it says I need 157 and 3751 mils of flour. So I'm gonna round it up. I'm just gonna say, right, we'll go for 160 maybe. And I used more potatoes actually. So this said 453.59 grams of potatoes, which is very, yes, it's very specific. And before I peeled them, I had about 700 grams. So I'm just going to weigh out 160 grams of flour, and if it needs more, I'll just add a bit more in. So I'll get my scales back. Give them a wipe out. Yeah, it's very specific. That's why I always think, how do those two measurements relate? Because if it's like exact on one side, so say like 100 or 200, by the time you swap it to the other one, it's lost all sense. So, but then I suppose it's better than cups, because with cups it's just like, well, there or thereabouts. Don't know. How big's your cup? Depends. Right, so what did we say? 160 grams. And I need to watch, on the stream the other day, I managed to poke a hole in my flour bag. So my flour now leaks, which is always good. Right, so 160 we said. I think that should be enough. It doesn't look like there's a lot of potatoes, and I'm assuming that with the flour it's just enough to kind of bind it together. So 160. And again I'm using gluten-free flour, but if you're not gluten-free, just use regular flour. And I went for plain flour. It didn't say, but I'm assuming if it just says flour, then it means plain flour. Right, so we've got our flour there ready. And then, so it's just a pinch of salt, 1 egg, a pinch of nutmeg, and some butter. So I'll grab the butter so that we're ready for that when we get to that stage. And I think actually the potatoes are good for us to start rolling them out. Butter in a pan, I'll get my pan ready. Sorry, that was really loud. Right. I'll grab my potatoes now and we can get all the bits and pieces in them. Yeah, so that's actually cooled down really quickly. That only took maybe, what was that, about 5-10 minutes? So, look at that. I'm going to get a bowl back over and we can start mixing stuff into it. Quite looking forward to these for lunch. It's just been such a long time since I've had them. And if you fry them well, they can be really nice and crispy on the outside and like kind of soft and fluffy on the inside. That's what we're aiming for anyway.